Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited. This is the third episode of For the Culture's Beyond series. My name is Nia Martin-Robinson, one of the founding partners of For the Culture, and I couldn't be happier to be here today to talk about one of my favorite topics and to be joined by two incredibly beautiful and brilliant Black women. We have Courtney Hughes and Carmen Berkeley. Courtney Hughes is a comm strategist, tech executive, mama, writer, content creator, all the things. And Carmen Berkeley is a media personality, DJ, producer, award-winning political strategist and activist, and an equity ambassador for the beauty brand Sephora. And so what we're going to be talking about today, this third episode of Beyond, is going to be about Beyond Beauty. Like, what does it mean for us as women of color, as Black women in particular, to be thinking about beauty outside of just the normal beauty standards, the European beauty standards that we've been inundated with all of our lives? What has that meant for us as being little girls? If we were plus size little girls, especially growing up in the 80s and 90s when I couldn't find like a pink pair of Guess jeans to fit me, and that's all I ever really wanted in life. And what did it mean for us as we were entering the workforce as young women? And so Courtney and Carmen, thank you so much for being here. And I'm really excited to dive in. So the first question I have for you is, where did your first notions of beauty come from? And what were some of the ways that your family either reinforced some of the beauty standards that you were continuously being fed? And what were some of the ways that they shredded some of those beauty standards for you?
I'll go first if you don't mind, Carmen. Thank you so much for having us, Nia. It's for me, it has been my first introduction, really watching my mom, my grandmother, all of my aunts, and how they carried themselves, how they took pride in how they carried themselves. You never went to the store with a bonnet on. You know what I mean? You would not be caught out the house with some slippers unless you go into the mailbox. It was like that was my introduction into our beauty and what that looks like for us. To that point, there were also some things I'm sure y'all know, the ritual every day on Saturday in front of the stove with the hot comb. And the perm, like those kinds of things. We didn't wear our hair natural when I was a kid. Didn't really understand why until I got older, and you start to realize the systemic things that are in places around what is professional for us and how we are supposed to look. How straight hair is professional, but curly hair is not professional. Like learning those things early, as well as being aware of our bodies. What you don't wear, what you make sure you cover up. I am a PK, so you like dresses are below the knee, y'all. It was all of those kinds of things, but I can say they never made us feel like we weren't beautiful. They always told us how beautiful we were and how special we are, even if we didn't realize it yet. It was the complete opposite of what we saw in TV and in the magazines. And like you, Nia, I was a little chunky, and it's okay. You know what I'm saying? I was very athletic as well. I played sports. That understanding of we're built different. And my parents, and especially my father, always was like, you're beautiful. Like, don't think that you're not beautiful. We're just built different. And that's okay. Or, trying to fit into the smaller jeans. And I'm very tall too. So finding some that actually fit like lengthwise was always a problem, as well as around the hips and thighs and stuff. And I would complain about it. And my dad was like, one day you were going to realize that women pay thousands of dollars to have what you have naturally. You might not see it now, but those things are a gift, and women pay a lot of money to look like you. So it was always, that was my introduction, as well as that constant reinforcement of seeing how beautiful I am, seeing how beautiful us as Black women are, seeing how you don't have to fit into the European standards of what beautiful is. I mean, because truth be told, we set the culture, we set the trends, and things we've been doing for years, they are adopting now as if they are new. And we're like, I've been doing that since elementary school. Like my mama and them were doing that too, you know. So that's what it was for me.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Courtney speaks for me. I feel like we grew up in the same family. I feel.
I'm like, we're all sisters because it's like the same sort of.
I'm like, we're cousins. My mother's the most beautiful woman I know. And I remember when she's a flight attendant. So her clothes are always pressed. And I would sit in the bathtub and watch her put on her face. I mean, and this is before eyebrows and contour. She was doing that stuff. And I actually only thought that red and orange lipstick were the lipstick colors and that leopard print was a color because that was the vibe and the frequency she was rocking on. Her hair always changed. She always took us with her to the hair salon. There was a hair salon back in Pittsburgh called Bobby J's. And I even remember when the finger wave and the beehive came out because we had them. But I also think in our family, we have a spectrum of color. So my sister is very fair skinned, you know, I'm brown skin. And I think that what I love about my mom and my grandmother is that they allow for the variety of skin tones in our family to be celebrated. There was no competing against my older sister. If anything, there was a lot of protection and both of us being seen as equally beautiful. And I think, you know, there are folks that struggle with the colorism that exists within our community. And I feel so lucky that in my family, you know, my sister wants to be my color. And, you know, in most, you know, families, it's like the browner one trying to be like the lighter one. But I feel like we were just both really celebrated. And I love that. I think, you know, Nia, what you said about being plus size and curvy growing up, man, I feel like the only thing I had was Lane Bryant and Kmart. And I remember, because I'm short, I'm 5'2". And so I remember thinking that petite meant like I was small, but really I was like a size 18 at, you know, like 10. But all the women in my family, you know, have size to them. And I have never really had a part of me that didn't want to look fly. Like it didn't really matter how big I was. I was like, well, can we sew 2 shirts together so I could look cute? But to be honest with you, it wasn't until I moved to Atlanta and I was around more Black people did I realize that one, I was a creative and that color is a thing for me. But 2, everything you said, Courtney, we're just built differently. And growing up around a lot of white folks and a lot of white girls, I thought that there was something wrong with my body because I couldn't fit into the Arizona Jean Company from JCPenney, when really it wasn't me, it was the retailers. And now that I'm an adult, I realize that, but I feel so grateful that I got a chance to move to Atlanta because every type of body type lives down there. And to be frank with you, the curvy body types are the ones that are celebrated. And so I think that is really what gave me my, that gave me my confidence as an adult, and I'm grateful for it.
I love that. Carmen, like you, I used to watch my mom too.
My mom was my aunt. For
yeah.
me, watching my aunt get ready. And also like having just a little bit about my family. I think just as I think about my growing up and what that felt like, it was a little bit different for me. My father, love you, Dad, right? But like the first place that I learned that being fat was not okay was in my house, was from my father, right? And having to, you know, so my next question is I'm thinking, you know, wanting to talk to you all about is how your personal ideas of beauty have evolved over time. And I think for me, it's really been having to untrain myself, not just from what I learned from outside, but from what I learned from inside of my own home. Or, you know, when I think about, I wanted to wear, my favorite sweatshirt to wear is a sweatshirt that says defend Black womanhood. And I think about the various ways that Black women's womanhood is chipped away at them. It is, one, because we are Black; two, sometimes because of the hue of our Blackness, because of our size. And so growing up, not just a chunky little Black girl, but a dark-skinned Black girl, like, who had a friend of mine, her mother tell me once, well, if you want to have pretty kids, then you need to have kids with a light-skinned guy, so that so that you could sort of guarantee a lighter shade for your children. Part of my different understanding around beauty and what that meant, both in terms of fashion and just in terms of my own body, has been being able to see women like you all, in the world and on social media, giving me a different kind of example than what I grew up with. And so I'm so grateful that young women get to see these kinds of images now and this kind of represent, because imagine what that would have been like for us at 14, 15, 16 years old. And so for you two, how has your idea around beauty and what is beautiful evolved over time? Or has it? Have you just been super grounded in what that's been for you?
You go first, Courtney.
Okay. It has evolved a lot for me. To your point, Nia, of unlearning a lot of things, retraining how you think about yourself, was one for me. I've always I've always been a thick, curvy girl. I mean, I have never had a thigh gap, y'all. And one of the, I'm thick. I got a big butt. I got curves. I've always had those things. And I used to try to hide those things. And over time, like, even though growing up, but you're being pushed this opposite narrative. You're in these spaces where you feel out of place. And I think it's us feeling out of place because we haven't stepped into our own light yet, to be like, I'm gonna shine in here anyway. It don't even matter if I look any different. I know I'm fly, and hey, y'all can look if you want to. I think it was a lot of that. One of the actual big things for me was my hair. Never wore my natural hair, always had a perm, hot comb, all of that growing up. And I got tired. My hair was thinning out. It just wasn't working for me anymore. And so I did the big chop. And my mom was like, what are you doing? And what are you doing? Because, for us, our hair is our crown. That's exactly how we were raised. And you take care of it, you take care of yourself. But I was like, this isn't really working for me. My hair is damaged, it's thinning out. And that grow out stage was awkward. I didn't like it whatsoever. But I knew at the end of the day why I was doing it. I wanted my hair to be healthier. So then when it came time for me to go on some job interviews a few years later at Dell, my mom was like, are you going to straighten your hair? Are you going to throw in like a straight wig? And I said, no. And she was like, but that's, okay, I know we raised y'all to have your own mind and want to do this own thing, but what if they don't see it as professional? And I was like, well, then that's not the place I should be at. That's not the place I should work. I want to be able to come as myself. And if my hair is an accessory and it is my natural hair one day and a short bob the next day, like, I should be able to do that, but I want to go as myself. I don't want to go with like pretending I'm somebody else. Like, this is actually me. And so the hair thing was definitely one of those, like, changing how I thought about myself, as well as even like how our body looks. I mean, I'm a plus size model. There's this negative connotation with plus size. I have no idea why. Like, your size is your size. What does it matter? And to your point, Nia, of seeing people that look like you. I have done events at Macy's and had a little Black girl come up to me and she's like, you look just like me. Can I have a hug? And it's like, I didn't get those things, but I get to be those things for little Black girls, including my own, who gets to see how I carry myself. The things that I had to deal with, making sure raising her in a way to keep that as far from her as possible, as what you what people think you should look like.
Yeah, I remember I worked for this really large organization once, and I was emceeing one of our events, and I wore this really bright colored skirt and a little tied up t-shirt, and afterwards I came off the stage feeling really excited, and these three women who had come, I actually think, Carmen, that they were actually from Pittsburgh. They came up to me and they were just like, nobody ever lets the big girl MC. Like, it's so exciting to be able to see you up there. And so I like having that very similar experience, and what an amazing and really like a blessing it is to be able to be a reflection of someone to themselves. But Carmen.
No, I'm so appreciative of you both saying this, because I think that my own standard of beauty is, I feel like I'm still in the process of allowing it to evolve. The standard of beauty that I grew up with, I'm sure like y'all, was Beauty of the Week in Jet Magazine, literally running to get it, to go to the middle, to see who's there. Yeah. And those people are beautiful. Those women are gorgeous. I mean, Essence, Ebony, and Jet is literally how I was raised. But also to see a larger body or a taller body or even a short, curvier body, you know, they were kind of hiding that. And so I think that over time, I was sitting here just listening to you all and trying to recall the moments of when did I start to evolve. And a lot of it was getting access to the clothing, because I'm like you, Nia, I'm always wearing something bright. I remember in high school, picking out like glitter pants, and you know, my family's like, that's what you're going to wear to school? Absolutely, wearing all glitter pants. But there's always just been this perception that like curvy people are not supposed to have any style. I'm actually going to post a reel about this later on, because I'm like, no, I've always had style. I was raised by other people that have style, so of course I have that. But I think I can't believe I'm going to say this, but the thing that opened me up was the Rainbow store in Northeast DC. I remember moving to DC, and I went into the Rainbow in all of its spandex and stretchy, bright colors. Somewhere between Rainbow and Ashley Stewart, I became aware that I could be beautiful, that I could wear bright colors, and that I don't have to actually hide anymore. And for me, I think that size has almost become, even when, like, sometimes for me, when I've been larger, I have felt the smallest. And there is a way through clothing and accessories that I've allowed myself to just be a little bit more proud. And it's interesting because for me, I'm not dressing up for anybody but me. There is no extracurricular person that I'm trying to impress, but it does always humble me when someone that I look up to style-wise comes over to me and says, oh, you look so great, or, oh, where did you get that thing from? And particularly when it's, I am always shocked that people are shocked that myself or other people of size look nice. What exactly did you think we were going to show up looking like? But I also feel like our parents' generation and the generation before, because they didn't have the access to the clothing, they might have been not looking the cutest. They might not have had on the brightest clothes. So I am grateful that the fashion industry is slowly starting to meet us where we're at, that you've got brands like, I mean, I feel like there are brands that are targeting me very hard on Instagram because they love my size. And I'm like, I'm still mad at you from the 11th grade, from me not being able to step into some of these stores. Although I am very appreciative that the pendulum has changed and now we can fit into these stores.
So let's talk about that some. So one of the biggest issues that I have sometimes as we are seeing this evolution, right? And to know that I've gone from like being 12 years old and having to shop at, you know, Lerner or Lane Bryant, right? And really looking like somebody's auntie in the 6th grade. But also like seeing and like wanting to shop at places like a Banana Republic or like a J. Crew, right? And that we know that there's some folks, some brands that have gone like full on size inclusion, but then there's some of these brands who are sort of playing around, right? Where it's like, you know how people try to treat the fat girl like, I'm gonna date you in secret, you know, you can't come in here and shop, but you can shop online and we'll send it to your house. And so there's still, I think, so much further for us to be able to go. So I'd love to be able to hear from you both, Carmen as a brand ambassador, as an equity ambassador for Sephora, and Courtney as a plus size model. What are the stretches that you think need to be made in the industry in terms of what real inclusivity actually looks like as we're thinking about fashion and clothing in particular?
I mean, to me, a little bit of it is like a reckoning that the average body type is larger than the sample size that they are using. And I get it. I've got a friend, I'm not going to name names, but I've got a really good friend that works as a buyer for a major company. And I asked them, like, y'all know darn well people that are a size 18 exist, that we want to go inside of the store.
We spend the money.
Yeah, I will spend any amount of money for a blazer that fits. I don't care. But I think some of it is you do still have cis white men running some of the largest corporations and companies in the world. You do have people that look like us that are in the C-suite. And certainly they're probably the reason why some of this stuff has changed in the first place. But I do think that it is important for they make up a lot of excuses for why they cannot allow for our size to actually be in the store. And I think that it is going to be more important than ever to make sure that folks that look like us are in the decision-making seats at a lot of these companies. To me, the reason why Sephora is the bomb on a variety of levels is because they have had their reckoning moment. They want for people to come into Sephora that look like every type of person, every type of gender, every type of race. And so when they started to match their business model with who was actually coming into the store and spending the most money, they know who their consumers are. Right. And they also want people to feel comfortable when they're in their store, which for most of us that go into a Sephora, we do. But that wasn't just for funsies. They had to work at it. They've got like deep diversity programming for every single person that works there. And I think that level of consciousness is what is needed. Because it's not enough that we can now walk into Banana Republic and get a size 18 or 20, because you can. The issue is that they're not comfortable with our size yet. So if I come in there and I can try on something, I can technically fit it. This is actually from them today. However, if you all have not started to learn and study body type, well, I can't wear an A-line skirt, okay? All my stuff needs to flare out. But that would be like a different level of love and consciousness of the body. And I do feel like some of that is connected to who's the leadership in an organization that's really helping people change how they feel about beauty and size.
Right. I was last summer, I was thinking about like stocking up on blazers for the fall. And one of the things I realized is that when we're thinking about size inclusivity, it also, let's go back to this piece around, and I'm looking at Courtney's really bright wall behind her, like going back to color, right? Because there's also this idea around like, well, we'll make the things and the sizes for you, but we're not gonna make the pink blazer and like the chartreuse blazer for you, but this tan and this white, you can get this, but that's it, right? Like you can't. So it's like also this idea around, I think so much of it is really about the restriction and the restraint of our bodies. It's what diet culture is all about. It's like how to tame down these bodies of ours. And I'm sorry, Corey, I want to make sure you get a chance to jump in.
Oh no, you're fine. I couldn't agree with the both of you more. To Carmen's point, for me, it is leadership as well. And the body type. Being a model, we get to model the clothes, right? But how it fits me is going to be different than how it fits somebody else. And so when you're talking about companies and manufacturers that are making these clothes, these brands that are then, the buyer is going to go buy to pull into the major retail stores, I feel like it needs to start there from a point of having different body types so you can see how the things fit. Which for me, from also a model, but a customer perspective too, you can tailor and change those things based on body type for things that will work the best. based on how you're shaped. Are you apple? Are you pear? Like, are you a Coke bottle? Like, how is this thing going to fit you? Where you can actually see how it's going to fit on your body type. But they actually have to make the investment, make it a priority to be more inclusive of how these things fit, because most of the clothes aren't made for us. So I don't know about y'all. I'm always gapping at the waist. Always gap. I have gapped at the waist since I was a little kid. Always had to wear a belt. I still have to wear a belt.
That was our replacement for the thigh gap that we got.
I didn't know that you didn't wear a belt. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to wear a belt.
You can actually wear jeans and not have to wear a belt. I've always had to wear a belt. So it's like, okay, if I go down a size, they're not going to get over my butt. If I go up a size, they'll get up, but I'm going to have a big gap in the back. Yep. And it's just like the clothes aren't made with us in mind. And I think just being more mindful about that, because to both of y'all's point, we will spend the money. Yep. I mean, if you look at from a consumer standpoint, how much money Black people spend, we will spend the money. Mm-hmm. We will absolutely spend it, but you have to give us something to spend it on. Right. And you can't, to your point, Nia, try to box us in with your select colors, which are the duller colors, right, as if we don't want to wear bright colors. I have even sometimes bought a men's blazer because it fit down my arm. That was actually a tip from a stylist because I'm tall. And so she's like, oh, you could actually buy a men's blazer. It'll fit your arms. And if you need to get a few things tailored, you could absolutely do that. But at least you'll have your arm length. And they have some cool colors too. And so I think, all of those things actually will help a lot, but it has to be a priority. Whether it's a strategic initiative that they do, where it's more of a focus, even in advertising, who they use in advertising, plays a big role in that too, because I mean, there are only some brands that use us a lot, like plus size models a lot, like front page in an advertise, you know what I mean? And even beauty brands too, they're getting a lot better. I think Fenty actually set the tone on that one as far as like changing the trajectory of what beauty is, as far as like what people should actually be looking at.
Yeah, and you know what, I think for me, because I felt so restricted by my clothes, that was how I ended up getting into makeup. I never felt restricted by the makeup. I remember being young, going into CVS and picking out every Revlon color, all the nail polishes, like trying on things. And that is actually how I learned how to, between my mom and then just like playing, was how I learned how to put on makeup. And I remember when Sephora first came out, because I used to wear a uniform. So I was restricted anyway. And so I could either have cute socks, which my sock game used to be the best in the game. Okay. But I remember being a young person going into Sephora, and Urban Decay was really popular. And I would like buy every single color, just trying on eyeshadow. So I am grateful for makeup, because I think that makeup allows for things that clothes restrict. And to me, there is like a whole different artistry and level of creativity that is allowed with makeup that's not with clothing. I mean, even when you talk about the blazer, I think about a job interview. People, if you walk in with a pink suit jacket on, you could or could not get the job. But I do feel like if you walk in and your face is glowing, you are actually sending a different type of signal, which is, for me, I think why I will always be loyal to makeup, because, and I don't even wear a ton of makeup, but I am loyal to what it has done my self-esteem.
You know what's funny? I wasn't big on makeup growing up, even though my mom was, and I watched her religiously put her face on before she had to go preach all the time. It was actually after college for me where I'd started to take an interest. To your point, a way of expressing yourself and your personality in the ways that you can't with your clothes. And I was always a big, bold lip kind of person. Like I grew to like love a pink, a purple, a red, like just a bold lip, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I went to Mac and met this guy. He was a gay guy. And he was like, and I was doing radio at the time. And I was like, I would like to learn how to do it so I can do my own for my gigs. And he was so patient with me. And he invited me to some of his drag shows, and they were absolutely amazing. But he was so patient, like teaching me how to do things. He would do the side of my face, I would do a side of my face. And then I started like, I honed the basics, and then I learned a lot from my best friend who's a makeup artist. I'll go and sit with her sometimes, and she'll have clients, and I'll just be looking like, oh, what is she doing? Like, I want to try that when I get home. It's just a different creative outlet for us.
Yeah. So yeah, you two, as I'm thinking about it, for me as a DEI practitioner, the work that you all are doing, Courtney, you as a plus size model, Carmen, you as an equity ambassador for Sephora, really is, even if people aren't thinking about it, the ways that we are seeing diversity, equity, and inclusion really stretch these industries. I'd love to hear from both of you just about your personal journey and how you got into, Courtney, what pushed you towards plus size modeling, and Carmen, for you, how did you get that offering and that opportunity to be able to be an equity ambassador, and what does that mean for you?
What pushed me into modeling? I'm like, that's a loaded question. I always, you're so funny. I always used to help my friends like with their portfolios who were photographers. And so they're like, hey, I need to, update. Would you mind taking some pictures? And for years, people would tell me, you should really think about modeling. And I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't necessarily think that's me. Like, I just happen to take good pictures. I kind of just brushed it off like that. But the more I thought about it, I was like, I mean, would it be so bad? Because of course I had my daughter at the time too. And so I'm like, would it actually be that bad? Like, I mean, it might be a little awkward for me because I'm not one to be center stage or be center of attention. I'm really down to earth. And it was like, would I even get along with these women in a room? Like, I'm not too sure about that. And so I did. I just took a chance. My best friend took my pictures in my apartment against my plain old cream wall. Them apartment walls, they all like the same color, like eggshell or something. And sent them over to the agency, and then like got a call back, went for a look-see. And it was like, oh, we'll see if, any clients would be interested in you. And then like a few months later, I had my first booking, and I've been signed with them I've been doing it for 5 years, and enjoy being a role model for my daughter, as well as for other Black and brown girls, to see people that look like them, to see curly hair, to see a fuller figure, to see somebody that has thick thighs, you know what I mean? To see a reflection of them, whether it's them themselves or someone in their family, they can see them. And it helps change the narrative of beauty and what it is. I never liked the comment, you're cute, but you're a little thick, it's like, I mean,
or
like,
really big girl.
Yes, or you cute for a big girl.
You have a nice smile. I'm like, that is not a compliment.
No, it's not. It's just like just go on somewhere. So I think it helps with that too.
Yeah.
With changing the conversation about how we think about ourselves. I don't know about you two, but any of the issues beauty wise, as far as I dealt with a lot of that in our own community. Versus like others as well, as far as what beauty is. Me personally, I would love to see more dark and brown, like darker skinned women on magazines, in ads, in commercials, showing the plethora of colors that we have and how beautiful all of them are. Like there isn't just this one shade of us that is beautiful. Like all of us are extremely beautiful. And not only us as a culture to start celebrating that and calling those things out, but for other brands to actually take notice of that too.
Oh, Courtney, I'm so happy that you are modeling, because for me, when I see a person like you, I will go towards the company. I don't actually shop places anymore if I don't see Black people, something that looks a little brown and something that looks a little thick. Like if your mannequin is not a little thick, I can't take you seriously at this point, because now I know you know better. So
now we see them. So
I saw them. Target started it and Macy's tried to finish it. So now I'm like, I can't take it seriously if you don't do it. So thank you, Courtney, for being a representative. There is a beautiful firm that's called Values Partnership. It's run by a Black couple. They used to work in politics in DC, and they're lovely. And they have been working with corporations and brands for a long time, helping them transform and to innovate around their diversity and inclusion work. And so I'm not exactly sure what the genesis story is, but they invited a bunch of folks that worked in politics, Black folks that worked in politics, to support Sephora. And I'm sure they'd be okay with me saying this, but I think that there was a time when there were folks that either worked at Sephora or customers that were dealing with a variety of just discomforts, whether it was around their experience, somebody not totally understanding our colors, our tones, and Sephora asserts that they are not a colorblind company. How could they possibly be a colorblind company, right? And so they went on this like exploration to understand how race and equity shows up in retail. And so they commissioned the largest study that retail has ever done. And they brought along a whole bunch of different retail partners to understand what is the experience of Black people and other people of color when we are consumers and also when we are on the staff. And they learned a lot and they were open about it. And the window that opened from that was huge. They came up with this campaign that was called We Belong to Something Beautiful, where if you go into Sephora, you see a true representation of us. Your experience going into Sephora has probably changed. I mean, I do live in Seattle. I cannot lie and say that there's a humongous Black people population here. But what I can say is I can find my colors, and that I know and I trust in a very different way that they will be able to help me. And that was because of the very deep work that Sephora did. So what I'll say is my role there is less telling anybody what to do and more, they wanted to listen and be a company that like listened to people that love and believe in them deeply. And I respect them so much because of that approach. The people that work on their beauty team, they are Black women. They are women of color. Like they do have fashion fair at Sephora, which is a Black makeup brand. Like that's the brand that all of us grew up with, Avon and Fashion Fair.
Right.
So the other thing that they do that I think is awesome is each year they take out an ad in Times Square around Black History Month and now for Pride Month. And they've been putting up the faces of the equity advisors. And honestly, at first I was like mortified, because I'm like, oh my goodness, my face is going to be up in Times Square. What does that even mean? But to see my peers or even younger people be like, oh, that's you. Your face is in Times Square. That means a chunky brown face is in Times Square. That means something. And I'm really grateful for them for providing that opportunity because I know it's not for me. It is for the younger people that get to see someone that looks like them that big.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that about the makeup and finding shades. Like you, all of me and my sibling, all the women in my family, we're all a variety of shades. Nobody is the same shade. And it was hard sometimes to find shades like for my sister or for my cousins. And even in modeling, you guys, I'm happy to see the progress because my first modeling gig, and this was the one where I was like, I have got to pack a makeup bag just in case this MUA makeup artist does not know how to do a brown face. She had me looking like Ashley Larry. And I was like, I am not getting in front of the camera like this. Do you mind if you have some makeup wipes and I can just I'll do my own base.
Contour me.
Right. Like, I will do my own base. You can do my eyes and stuff, but I'm not going in front of that camera looking like I've been playing in flour. I'm just not doing it. And I started bringing my own makeup bag. But then over the last 5 years, I've started to see more of them like actually have the colors for us, not just for me, but I see darker shades in there too. Or even if I'm getting booked to host or MC an event, I will ask, hey, does your MUA know how to do makeup for Black women? I have no problem being upfront and asking. And if they can't answer, then you need to check. And if the answer is no, then you need to find somebody that does. Because I mean, it's like a disservice for us too, always having to do our own makeup because they don't know how to do our makeup, always having to do our own hair because they don't know how to do our kind of hair. Where, I feel like in some places they're doing great, especially around the makeup, but especially around the hair stuff, like we definitely have some ways to go.
And this is honestly a workplace issue. I mean, to me, and I'm really lucky. I work with majority people of color. We actually just did headshots. And I said to our comms director, is the MUA and the hairstylist going to be able to do my hair? And she's like, Carmen, we have like all people of color staff. Like I would never not hire somebody that had all the colors. And so when I showed up, I was like, oh, this white girl not going to be able to do my face. And she got me together. But I think, again, that happened because the communications director from our organization is like a Vietnamese woman. She's not going to have me out here looking wild because she's not going to be out here not looking okay. And I do think that one, hiring the right people is critical. Yeah, and I think two, for us that are in leadership positions, knowing that, a part of our responsibility is to test the water and to push the line. In my life outside of, doing beauty things, I do have a professional job and I do have half my head shaved. You can often see me in a box braid. And I think for me, that is a part of my style. So I don't see it in any way, but I recognize that for other Black people at work, them seeing me with blonde, half-shaved hair allows them to be able to show up to work that way too and know that they can be taken seriously. And I do feel like, even though I'm not trying to be a role model, I recognize the ways that we got to push so that other people can feel comfortable at work.
And even if it's not us being role models, right, it is us sort of charting a path forward so that we know that other folks, other young Black women, other young women of color who are coming up and through behind us have an easier way in what it means to show up as their complete and full and authentic self in the workplace, in the airport, everywhere where they're sort of showing up and being their full selves. So thank you both so much. When we do our Beyond episodes, we like to end with a question around how folks are moving beyond. So as we're thinking about beauty, and the ideas around inclusivity and the stretching that needs to happen, what are the ways that you are using your platforms, using your beauty and your brilliance to move beyond beauty?
I know, right, Carmen?
I'm like, oh my goodness.
I mean, just a little something, little thought-provoking something.
I can try to take this. I think
you can start first.
Yeah, I think that, well, one, I am becoming acutely aware of how many Black people, like designers, have already been showing up for us. And with my own meaning, before the big companies were making bigger shirts and bigger skirts, it was like Black designers that were doing it. All of my favorite accessories come from Black people. And so I feel really compelled in my personal social media life to put those people out there, because people, the stuff that I wear that folks are like, where'd you get that from? It's usually from a Black woman. And I feel really blessed that I have that type of access, and I just want to support in like spreading the good news. But I think the other thing that in the beyond part is I work in politics adjacent, and I am excited to see more people of size running for office. I think the coolest thing in the world is that Stacey Abrams looks just like me. And I want to see and support more people looking fly, being big or small or tall or short as the representative of us in politics. Because I lived in DC for 15 years. There is a look. There is a blue suit, a Black suit, a thin person, a pencil skirt from Ralph Lauren. And to me, you know, when Stacey Abrams becomes the governor, I don't know if that's going to be her outfit, but I do feel very lucky and blessed that she is about to, she's busting open what leadership can look like. And so to me, my hope is that we can continue to bust that stereotype that leadership is supposed to look a certain way. We've already busted that white men are not the only thing going. And now I feel like just a body variety feels really exciting to me. More people with disabilities, more people who are, you know, more everybody's is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is such a good question too. I would say definitely buying Black is a big one for me. Not only buying Black, but supporting Black. Black-owned businesses, Black entrepreneurs. The gentleman who put the TV up outside was a Black man. And I was like, can I have your card? Because I got more stuff for you, and I will refer you to other people as well. You know, spreading the word about different Black businesses that people might not be aware of, whether it be reading books. Me and my daughter are big book readers. And I'm also big on having a lot of Black authors in our house, especially for children's books. You know, that kind of attention and awareness there, because our stories deserve to be told no matter what area we are in. Supporting, just like you, Carmen, Black candidates, you know, the good ones, okay? The good ones. I mean, we all know all skin folk ain't kin folk. I love everybody, but you know, it's just that kind of awareness of like, I'm aware. I still love you. I'm just aware. And I think another one for me, in my personal life, as well as my professional life as a model, but also one in tech, just showcasing how beautiful and excellent we are. Showing up how I want to show up, with my hair curly one day, with a straight wig on the next day. I got braids on. I got a scarf up with my hair wrapped up and little hair everywhere. Like just showing up in as me and showing that you can be in leadership and look like us.
Right.
And I don't have to diminish my style. Big hoop earrings are my signature. I always keep them in. You know what I mean? I'm a big sneakerhead. So wearing sneakers is another big thing for me. And so I'm on stage with leaders in a suit and some kicks. Yeah. And like, that is professional. That is okay. And so it's just for me personally and professionally, just continuing to showcase that you can look like us and be in leadership. You don't have to change your hair. You don't have to change your style. I use slang in some of my meetings sometimes because I'm like, you know what? I've had enough pretending.
I can't give you any more.
No, I can't do anymore. You know, because it's not only for those that are working that look like us, but people are always watching. At your job, at the grocery store, in your field, at a meeting, in your personal life, kids, family, friends, like people are always watching. And you never know who you are inspiring just by being yourself.
Yeah, and you know, I don't usually answer this question, but when I think about what it means for me to go beyond beauty, it's me moving beyond the limitations that I've learned and even the limitations that I've set for myself, you know. So it means, you know, buying the two-piece. It means wearing the brighter colors. It means wearing the shorter skirt if I want to. You know, I mean, just like stunting in the way that I know that I can and that I should. And so I am so grateful that both of you are out in the world being as beautiful and brilliant and badass as you are. And so grateful that you took some time to share all of that brilliance with us. So Courtney and Carmen, thank you so much for being here, for being on our third episode of Beyond Beauty. And I look forward to being able to talk to you both some more about almost any and everything, because I feel like the three of us could get on here and chop it up about all the things. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see everyone soon.